Welcome to Diabetes Connections in the News. I'm Stacey Sims, and these are the top diabetes stories and headlines of the past 7 days. In the News is brought to you by the T1D Exchange. T1D Exchange is a nonprofit organization, and they are dedicated to improving outcomes for the entire T1D population. A big new study shows a rise in both type 1 and type 2 among U.S. children and teens. This was from 2002 to 2018. The rates of increase of both diabetes types were generally higher among several racial and ethnic minority populations compared with the non-Hispanic white populations. In all girls aged 15 to 19, the incidence of type 2 exceeded that of type 1. The increasing incidence of diabetes in U.S. youth is in sharp contrast to a stable or declining incidence of diabetes in adults, say these researchers. This study, called SEARCH, used a population-based registry for newly diagnosed children and teens that included surveillance for about 5 million kids in all or part of 7 states. So this is not a nationwide total. They identified just over 18,000 kids with type 1 and just over 5,000 with type 2. Related story, a U.S. panel tasked with weighing the pros and cons of diabetes screening for kids and teens found a lack of evidence for the testing, even as the proportion of youth with type 2 in this country has doubled since 2001. They say while there's plenty of evidence to support screening adults for type 2, not enough to make a similar recommendation for asymptomatic youth. These researchers say they need a better understanding of which young people are at greatest risk for type 2, and that data would allow for more precise screening guidelines. They also say they need to make sure the criteria they're using, which comes from adults, is actually appropriate in kids. The risk of type 2 is reduced by more than half by a weekly injection of the new obesity drug Wegovy. This is according to new research presented at the annual meeting of the European Association for the Study of Diabetes. Wegovy is the brand name of semaglutide, recently approved by the FDA. It works by mimicking a hormone called glucagon-like peptide 1, or GLP-1, that targets areas of the brain that regulate appetite and food intake. In the largest placebo-controlled trial, individuals who received semaglutide lost 6.2% of their initial body weight compared to those who received the placebo. Other clinical trial results showed it reduced weight by over 15% on average when used together with a healthy lifestyle program. The trials indicate sustained treatment is needed to maintain the reduction in type 2 risk. These researchers say using the shot reduces the future risk of diabetes by over 60% in patients with obesity. This figure is similar whether a patient has prediabetes or normal blood sugar levels. Lawsuit against Medtronic Diabetes over how it disclosed insulin pump problems. Interestingly, this lawsuit claims security fraud and is a potential class action shareholder lawsuit. The complaint, it's part of a pension fund, claims that Medtronic repeatedly assured investors from 2019 onward that FDA approval of the next-gen MiniMed 780G insulin pump was on track. Meanwhile, recall problems mounted with previous models, and the 780G has still not been approved by the FDA. Back to the news in just a moment, but first, the T1D Exchange Registry is our sponsor, and they are a research study. They're designed to foster innovation and improve the lives of people with type 1. Go ahead and sign up for this. Your personal information remains confidential. Of course, your participation is fully voluntary. And once you're enrolled, you complete annual surveys. You have the chance to sign up for other studies on specific topics related to type 1. By sharing opinions, experiences, and data, you can help advance meaningful T1D treatment care and policy. The registry is now available on the T1D Exchange website. It is so simple to use. For more information, go check it out. It's at t1dregistry.org/Stacey. That's t1dregistry.org/STACEY. Signing up and sharing your confidential information really does help the entire community. Back to the news, and congratulations to Mike Joyce. You may know him on Instagram as Sweet Hiking. He completes an incredible accomplishment in hiking. It's called the Triple Crown. He finished the Pacific Crest Trail this past Sunday. Basically, Mike has done 9,000 miles in the last 4 years. That Triple Crown includes the Pacific Crest Trail, the Appalachian Trail, and the Continental Divide Trail, which Mike had previously done. Only 535 people had completed the Triple Crown until this year. So Mike, I don't know if he was 536 or what number he is this year, but we will talk to him again soon. He is a great story. Congratulations all around. And finally, I saw this on one of the local news stations in New York, and I had to share it with you. a Long Island great-grandmother, is one of the oldest living Americans with type 1 diabetes. The 92-year-old Great Neck, New York, that's Long Island woman, was diagnosed at age 11. Back in the early 1940s when she was diagnosed, she was told she would probably only live 5 more years. That's even though she had access to insulin. Her name is Libby Lashanky, and she was also told to keep her diabetes a secret as she got older. And she was told having children would kill her, but she had 2 kids. She now has 7 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. I'm going to reach out to this family and see if I can find them. I mean, what an incredible story. I love her quote here. She says, "In those days, they thought they knew what they were doing." Wow. And that is in the news. Our last long format episode is all about Doug Scalia, the New York City Marathon. Actually, it's about all of his marathons. He is running 3 more this fall, which will bring him to 28. And that includes the New York City Marathon with the folks from Beyond Type Run. But he's also a World Series of Poker player. And I was curious which one affected blood sugar more. So we talk about that and a whole bunch of other things. And we'll be back in just a couple more days with another long format episode. Thank you so much for listening. If you like In the News or any of these podcast episodes, please share them. Word of mouth really is the best way to help new people find the show, and I appreciate each and every one of you. I'm Stacey Sims. I'll see you back here in just a couple of days. Until then, be kind to yourself.
Diabetes Connections is a production of Stacey Sims Media. All rights reserved, all wrongs avenged.